Hello, everybody. All right, there we go. Well, welcome to the Mikestand, everybody. Today is happy Easter, first off, for everybody. Um, Today, of course, is Sunday, April the 20th, 2025. It's Easter Sunday. Hopefully, everybody's had a good Easter Sunday today. Whether you believe in the Christian interpretation of Easter or the more secular version. I just hope you enjoyed yourselves. I had a good day today. So, of course, today is, as we said, Sunday. So this is our weekly show that we do where we bring somebody in with us to go over some comics from the past. This week we're looking at comics that went on sale in May of 1940 from David McKay and Eastern Color. But before we do get into all that, and I get a little bit more into detail on that, let me of course let my co-host introduce himself, the Metal from the Vomitorium. Metal, floor is yours.
Howdy, 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 howdy. Yeah, as you said, I host a show called The Vomitorium, no less than twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. Occasionally, I feel a little springy and do something on it throughout the week. Depends how I feel. Which you can find over here on Mondays. We run a show called Super Serial Showtime, where we talk about movies, shows, anime, comics, whatever. Heck, I'll even talk about a novel here and there. And on Thursdays, we cover video games over on Game Central Junction, which I tend to pre-schedule the shows at the beginning of the week. So you can always hit that notification button and know when we go live. But also, I run a publication called X Dynamis Chaos, where I put up web comics and web novels that I have on my own website. It's mirrored everywhere else. And right now we're working on a premium story that you actually have to pay for. Sorry, but that's the way it is, called The Dreamscape Dilemma, which will be really fun and catered for audiences of 10 and up. So, if you have kids out there that are looking for independent comics to read, new stories, once that's ready, you'll be able to pick that up and give it to them.
In fact, as we were talking just before we went on, the picture in your background there, isn't that from your
Yes.
from Dreamscape?
That is the cover of The Dreamscape Dilemma, Chapter 1, Everyone Dreams, drawn by my artist, Phasmogore. I colored it. Those are actually my colors. And I even did the thumbnail for that cover, too. But basically, the way we're splitting the work is I am writing, doing all the basic, like, character designs and stuff. I am doing the coloring for the cover, toning for the like shading and stuff for the inks because it's black and white, lettering and final editing of everything, and she's handling the illustration, like the pencils and inks.
Oh yeah, Fanta, who I believe I've seen on like Rex's show before.
No,
Right.
not Fanta. Phasmogore, different person
Oh,
altogether.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure
I
about
know who
her.
you're talking about. I know Fanta.
Yeah. Um, would you would you like to do a little bit more of a pitch and tell us a little bit about
The
Dreamscape?
Dreamscape Dilemma? Sure. So the idea behind the Dreamscape Dilemma is that a group of kids suddenly fall into deep comas and they drift down into the place called the dreamscape, which is where all consciousness rises up from and where dreams are. And they don't know why they're down there, but they have to basically navigate nightmares and other things within the land of dreams to figure out the mystery of why they were pulled down there in the first place, accompanied by their own personal dreams that are representatives of kind of like their archetype. Kenji here, who is Japanese. Don't worry, not everyone's Japanese. They come from different places. I just figured I'd start with the Japanese kid. Is the everyman. And because of that, his dreams and his partner will reflect him being the everyman. And it'll be a fun little romp through a whimsical, mystical land, similar to stories like Digimon Adventures or Persona.
Hmm. Yeah, sounds pretty interesting there. Well, the dreamscape has always been used across many a medium,
Yeah.
uh, you know, in some form or another. It's kind of funny because yesterday I just watched a Super Friends article where Batman and Superman inadvertently, um, released a criminal called Sleep, who sent them into a dreamscape. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
um,
I think like the easiest pitch for this to be would be basically Digimon meets Little Nemo in Slumberland. I think that's like the easiest way to just picture it without having to go in too much detail.
right. Yeah, I mean, and I can actually from what were telling me before the show, I could kind of, and from the way I see your your background there, I kind of got the idea that that's probably what was pretty, what was there. Um, anything more you'd like to say about it before we get going?
Yeah, I mean, so even though it is going to be a premium book, that you have to like buy once it's finished. People who don't want to wait or want to support it in other ways can actually join our Patreon that we have. If they get the Dreamer tier, that tier is actually split evenly between me and the artist, and they can see work in progress shots, finished pages, any other background things that we do as they're completed. And if you back for any month during the time that a chapter is being made, you'll just be given the PDF afterwards, because the $5 a month is going to be worth more than the actual book will sell for. So it's like, yeah, we're not going to make you double dip. We'll just send you a PDF.
All right. All right. Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal there. Anything more you'd like to say before we move
No,
on?
that's it. We can get into everything else if you want.
All right. So and of course, a friendly reminder to everybody: if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions, and we will try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. With all that being said, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing tonight. So tonight, taking another trip down comics history lane, we're going back to May of 1940. This week, we're going into the worlds of David McKay publications and Eastern Color publications. We'll be reading primarily out of Regular Fellers Heroic Comics Volume 1, Issue 1. We'll be in a moment here. I'll be introducing you guys to the main feature in that, Hydro-Man, not to be confused with Spider-Man. The Spider-Man villain, of course, is actually a hero. We'll be talking a little bit about him. Before we get into the actual reading, of course, we'll also just take a brief look, summary-wise, of Future Comics #1 and Ace Comics #40 from David McKay Publications, at least to show you guys what was going on in the universe of David McKay Publications in May of 1940. So, with that being all said and done, let's go ahead and get started by taking a look at Hydro-Man. Let me just grab that. And that's Hydro-Man, not Hydrant Man. as Christopher Daniel Barnes put it in the Spider-Man the Animated Series when Hydro-Man made his first appearance. So, Hydro-Man is a fictional superhero character who first appeared in comic books from Eastern Color Printing in 1940. Not to be confused with Spider-Man villain Hydro-Man. As you notice, the name's even spelled. So the Hydro-Man from Eastern Color is all one word, while the Spider-Man villain is hyphenated.
Which just kind of matches the Spider-Man naming convention anyway, because Spider-Man's name itself is hyphenated.
Mm-hmm. And of course, publisher was, we won't go too much in. We won't go too much into the fictional biography because that'd be kind of redundant. Once we read the story, anyways. But we will do at least talk. We'll go through at least the publishing history there. But at least some of the basic information here. Publisher was Eastern Color Printing. He first appeared in, as we said, Regular Fellers Heroic Comics #1. Now, Regular Fellers was an actual news comic strip in the papers back in the day. So, #1, the cover date is August of 1940, but of course, the on sale date was May of 1940. So, and Bill Everett, the same guy who made Namor the Submariner, was the guy who created Hydro Man. In story information, alter ego Bob Blake. Some of these came a bit later, of course, but partnerships: Rainbow Boy, aliases Hydro, abilities can transform part or all of his water or all of his body into water, which he can control. And we've seen a number of superheroes over the years be able to do that, haven't we? Metal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right, so here's some of the publishing history on Hydro Man here. Created by Bill Everett, Hydro Man first appeared in the premiere issue of Regular Fellers Heroic Comics in August of 1940. Of course, cover date. Issue number 14, which came out, cover date September 1942, introduced Rainbow Boy, who would be Hydro Man's sidekick. Hydro Man's last appearance in this title was in issue number 29, March of 1945. In 2008, Hydro Man appeared in the Dynamite Entertainment miniseries Project Superpowers. Here, he was referred to by the nickname Hydro, presumably to avoid any trademark conflict with Marvel Comics, who by now had a supervillain character named Hydro Man. And as I said, we won't get into the fictional character's biography here because we'll touch upon that when we obviously read the story. All right, so with that being said, now let's move on to at least the two David McKay comics here real quick. First off, let's take a look at Future Comics. Introduce everybody to that since
I hate to break it to everyone before we get into it, but we live in the future, and it's nothing like these comics.
Yeah, I mean that one. I think there was that one story. I don't know if you've ever read any of that, where they were telling us what they thought 1980 would be like, and it turned out that wasn't the case. Where basically the Asians had taken over, like some kind of Mongolian. The Mongolians had basically taken over the earth and had basically been stationed in, I can't remember off the top of my head which feature that was, but I know it was one of the more offshoot ones. So, anyways, yeah. Well, even the people of the '60s, their thoughts on what the future would be like isn't what it actually was.
Oh, everybody's continuously disappointed. I mean, we're past the future and Back to the Future.
Yeah. So now this issue apparently only ran this book, Future Comics, only ran 4 issues. So David McKay, 1940 series. Publication dates June of 1940, September of 1940. That's probably just the cover dates as we mentioned. Notes: title combines newspaper strip reprints and some original material. In fact, they don't even have. They have the number. We can probably look at the only thing we can look at here is the cover because they don't actually have the book apparently. So there's the cover, apparently starring the Lone Ranger. Future Comics, 10 cents there. Let's see.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's not the Lone Ranger on the cover there, and I have no idea. You got what looks like a rooster's heading on there. Um,
Oh yeah, it's almost like he strapped a rubber glove to his head.
yeah, basically. Which a lot of people, when they want to dress up like a rooster, that's what they do, right? They just strap a
Yeah.
rubber glove to their head. Um, yeah, I have no idea who he would even be considered, but anyway, so all right, so that was kind of minimal there. But now let's look at some basic information on Ace Comics.
I do like that cover art though. I think the for the era, the colors are actually really good.
Yeah, and look at the fiery planes going down there.
Yeah.
And of course, you had some other interesting little sci-fi things from that time too. You see in the lower right-hand corner there that what looks like that tower kind of
Oh
encircled with
yeah,
three
like
discs there.
rings.
And that was, I think, that was a pretty common thought too. That a lot of, I don't know, electrical items would look like that, right? What do you say?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I remember Tesla had a bunch of notes that you would have like towers that could basically just like wirelessly beam energy places.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know on a few cartoons they'd have that shape on some beam devices too, like at
Yeah.
the end of the tank or something like that. Yeah. So, anyways, let's see. Let's get over to Ace Comics number 40 now. Yeah. Date. Ouch. And as I said, we're gonna look over to number 40 here. If somebody get there. All right. And again, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So on the cover there is, of course, the Katzenjammer Kids, penciled and inked by Joe. There's Hans and Fritz there. Keyword crab or some humor children. See the forward. Hello, pals. It's high time we caught up on our pen pal news. Nonfiction inside front cover. The Phantom, who is the lead feature for Ace Comics here. Now you remember David McKay did a lot of the King Feature Syndicate characters like Popeye, the Phantom, Flash Gordon, Mandrake the Magician. Those characters were highlighted by David McKay publications, just so everybody knows. Okay. Of course, the genre was adventure, jungle, superhero, reprints from the Phantom Daily Strips, King Feature Syndicate from, of course, 1937. Um, what luck! Took a spill. Can't use this leg, but I've got to catch up to Diana. Let's see some other key features. Pete the Tramp, a two-pager there, humor. 4 pages of Jungle Jim, a jungle adventure type book to celebrate. Okay,
That's a good name for a jungle adventure book.
what Jungle Jim?
Yeah.
I know. I think I've heard of one or two wrestlers who went by that name too.
That's a very obvious name, right? Like you played on a jungle gym as a kid and you're like, yeah, jungle gym. Why not?
Yeah, Sports and Pictures here by Jack Sword. Well, penciled and inked by Jack Swords, in which they featured, I guess, Eddie Arcaro. The Katzenjammer Kids, as we talked a little bit, by Harold Nur. Humor children. Never let me, uh, never let me catch you playing with guns again. Barney Google and Snuffy Smith, another, and I just found out that um, back in 1936, 35, 36, Charles Mint Productions actually produced 4 animated Barney, Google, and Snuffy Smith shorts for Columbia Pictures. I just found that out recently.
Oh, okay.
You can't. The only thing is though is that you can't really find, and it's one of those things that just kind of got lost. Like the original audio got lost to them and stuff like that. They have them on YouTube and stuff like that. But let's see, of course, Barney, Google, and Snuffy Smith by Billy DeBeck. Yeah. Humor. What did you want to see me about? Let's see. Seeing Stars, Norma Scherer, and Tyrone Power. Nonfiction, obviously. Johnny Weissmuller. I guess this was a celebrity feature. Kind
I
of
would
like
take it by the name, yeah.
Tim Tyler's Luck, Adventure Children, with pencil names by Lyman Young. Edie Carter with Just Kids, another humor children. Kind of as always. Timberline Tales by Rutherford Montgomery. This one's a text story, apparently. Western Frontier Adventure. Blondie by Cheek Young. Gee, Mom, we're having so much fun. Humor Domestic. Prince Valiant by Hal Foster. 4 pages there. Adventure Historical. Little boys should not meddle in the affairs of Morgan Le Fay. Tilly the Toiler, another drama humor one, soap opera kind of thing. Curly Harbor at Lakespur Venture. My guess that'd be kind of like a high school athlete type comic if I had to guess. But I could be wrong. Teddy the Sitting Bull. Humor Children Domestic. Elmer, Room and Board. A lot of these are probably more like humor strips. You don't have a lot of too many like big features. Like Phantom might be the main big feature right there, and among others. But anyway, so that's what you got. That's what you got if you were in the David McKay publications back in 1940. Hey, Vic Shozo. So, Matt, I don't know if you knew this or not, but the show has been joining us on the Mikestand quite a bit lately.
I know.
Oh, you do know? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just made him a mod, in fact, recently.
Cool.
Just the other day, so.
I just want you to know, like most days, even if I'm not interacting in chat, I am lurking. I usually just have you up in the background while I'm doing other things.
Okay. All right. Well, it helps with the views, obviously, but I also want interaction, obviously. I know, just so that so that everybody's involved and stuff like that. Anyway, so now let's go ahead and now move on to the main feature of the night, of course. I remember where to go with it. Is this? All right. I hit the wrong button there. That's not what I was trying for. Sometimes my fingers don't know exactly where to go. There we go.
You should just yell at them more. That's what I do.
All right. And we already talked. So, metal, as always, well, you already told me that if you wanted to, you'll let me know. But as and this goes for everybody. Anything here that we read through catches your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability, and as always, comments are welcome. So, anyways, Regular Fellers Heroic Comics, 10 cents. August, November, number 1. August, of course, is the cover date. Big prizes, more than 2,000 regular fellers, sweatshirts, insignias, buttons, and quote unquote how to draw it books. See inside pages. In this issue, Hydroman.
Definitely looks like he's ready to go for a swim.
Yep. But apparently, there are people there who aren't so ready. Huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially like you can't get that gun wet. I mean, those bullets will be useless if the gunpowder gets wet.
Yeah, you probably couldn't fire the gun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The official publication of regular fellers. And a better colored copy of the cover there, it looks like. And here are some of let's see, the best in most comics: cowboys, fast moving, suspense, pirate plots, planet mysteries, laughs, thrills, surprises, rugged youth, G-men, scout lore. Yeah, because in Famous Funnies, they actually do have a feature that features a boy like an Eagle Scout in it.
I think I remember
Hollywood,
us reading that before.
yeah, Hollywood, yeah, Roy Powers. That's who it was. Um, let's see, action, monkey shines, jungle, aviation, and we already saw thrills and all that. Buck Rogers, Speed Spaulding, um, Roy Powers, Goofy Gags, Sky Roads, Hairbreadth Harry, Jitter, Chief Wahoo, Dickie Dare, Ventures of Patsy, Napoleon, Pen Pals, Okey Dokes, Seaweed Sam, Ollie of the movies, Scorchy Smith, Somebody Stenog, Lightning and the Lane Rider, and the Lightning and the Lone Rider, Babe Bunting, Homer Hoopy, and many others. Hydroman by Bill Everett. This is a story of Harry Thurston's great discovery. Quote, Hydroman. Harry is a young chemist who devotes all his spare time to constructive invention confining himself day and night to his laboratory. His two dearest friends are Bob Blake and Joyce Church, both of whom are greatly concerned with our story. Bob, you see, is well. Suppose you read it for yourself. Nice little tease there, huh?
Yeah.
And then I guess there's Bob Blake on the right there, the guy in the blonde with the red 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 coat and tie and all that.
He looks like a Bob.
Yeah. And then in the bottom corner there, Joyce Church, the girl there, looked like she kind of got a brown, maybe auburn hair color with the red. And then Harry Thurston there is the guy with the glasses, kind of looked like a little older gentleman there.
Yeah. Definitely looks like a deep red. Is that not supposed to be the same person who was on the cover with like that bright red hair?
That's maybe. Could be. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if you'd agree. If you look at the face there, I think they did. That might be one and the same person right there.
Yeah. I immediately thought that was just the same person on the cover. I'm assuming she's going to be integral to the plot of whatever we're going to read.
Well, if we know anything from what we've read, chances are okay. So it looks like Bob and Joyce there are probably a bit younger. They look like they're maybe in their anywhere from their mid-20s to early 30s probably.
Yeah, probably.
And Harry there is a little bit older, maybe in his 40s. So it could also be that Bob and Joyce are kind of romantically involved for all we know, or at least they might imply that in the story. But
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out soon enough, won't we?
Yeah, when they said, well, suppose you read it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Our story opens in Harry's laboratory in New York City on one day in early summer. Harry and his partner, Tom Kinsman, are testing some new revolutionary chemical when and we always know what happens when you get people messing with chemicals in a laboratory, don't
Hmm. Yes. Either somebody dies or they get superpowers. There's no in between.
we? Right. That's almost anytime you read something like that, that's almost a dead giveaway that's
Yeah.
like
Also,
what
hey,
you
Rick.
said is going to happen. Ah. Hmm. Harry, be careful. That stuff's dangerous. Hmm. Don't worry, it's only alcohol and water with a little sulfuric acid. Let's see what happens. Crack! Yow! Holy smoke, Harry! What's happened to your hand? I don't know. I don't know, Tom. Get Bob Blake on the phone. Hello, Mr. Blake? Oh, Miss Church. This is Kinsman, Harry Thurston's partner. Something's happened to Harry, and he wants Bob to come over right away. Yes, he lost his left hand in a freak accident.
Yeah, he sprung a leak.
Man, what's kind of funny is he just goes ahead and just tells them that over the phone like
Yeah.
that. No sense of discretion whatsoever. Good grief, Bob. Harry just blew off his hand. An explosion or something. Huh? Say, Joyce, that's bad. Come on, let's go. Let's get over there. Let's get over there. Now, how the deuce could he do a thing like that? Harry's generally pretty careful. This would have to happen just when I was getting him interested in this case of Oriental invaders. A few minutes later, at Harry's laboratory. Harry, what happened? Glad you came, Bob. I think I've made an important discovery. I just mixed a chemical that transformed my hand into a water spout. Yet there's no pain. I'll have to check on what chemical was in the tube before.
Oh, Fischoso actually has some comments. He's like, acid, alcohol, and water turns a scientist into water. I always wondered why the comics didn't just use a witch in a cauldron, considering they aren't even trying to be chemically accurate, which is a complaint I usually levy. I think the chemicals can be fun, but when you take a character who kind of seems almost mystical before, and chemicals weren't necessarily part of their origin, like say
Uh-huh.
Superman, and then you try to like overly scientifically explain them, you kind of just lose the wonder of the character, and you make it worse because the science is just never good enough to explain what they're doing.
Yeah, well, as we have discovered on several occasions, of course, comic book writers back in the golden age really didn't have much of a grasp on science as a whole, did they?
No, not really.
We've seen
like
that
like the
countless times, haven't we?
yeah, like I forgot what comic was it, but the one where he put in headlights that was somehow freezing a path on the water as they were driving by.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact feature either, but I remember that story as well.
Yeah, I was like, that's ridiculous, but it was funny. I laughed.
Yeah. So Vitzozo says, I always wondered why the comics didn't just use a. Oh, you actually read that one already.
Yeah, that was the one I read. Yeah.
I didn't even realize you read that was. I just thought you were saying that yourself. I didn't know you were
Yeah.
reading that. Oh, okay.
I also
Yeah.
corrected him. Yes, this is not the Spider-Man villain. We covered that before you came in. That Hydra Man has a hyphen between Hydro and Man. Different people,
Yeah.
Fizjozo.
This Hydro Man is it's one word. Just so you
Always
know.
reminds me of there's I think it's a slightly more modern panel because they'd like to do those gags. But there's a gag with Spider-Man where somebody's saying his name, and in the text they're spelling his name without the hyphen, and it's like it's tingling his spider sense. He's like, I know that you're not saying my name with the hyphen, and it bothers me.
Oh, somebody actually did that.
Yeah.
That sounds like something. Sounds like something you'd find in an ambush book,
Yeah.
ambush bug story or something like that, where where breaking the fourth wall is, quite a part of it. Oh, it shows I had another comment here. Let's see. Why use science as an explanation when they know absolutely nothing about science, even the basics?
Welcome to the world of science fiction, where the vast majority of the people who write in it don't know the first thing about science. They just know science-y things and it looks cool. That's all that matters is science-y things and it looks cool for the genre of science fiction.
And hence the term science fiction, right?
Yeah. Well,
Because
there are some people that know more than others, right? Like you have the classic Jules Verne, who knew a lot at his time, or even Michael Crichton later on with like several of his books, Sphere, Jurassic Park. But most people are just using it as a very sciencey looking fantasy.
yeah, they had all the style, but not much of the substance, right?
Yeah, and they're just trying to wow people, and that's fine because a lot of the people who read it and like it just want to be wowed.
So many comics from the Silver Age had magnets work on things um, that aren't even metal.
Yeah, and it's worse too because the more you know about magnets, you're like, well, you can technically magnetize almost anything, though that's a lot of work. I had a pre-calc teacher who spent all day magnetizing a wooden yardstick so it would stick to his dry erase board, and he got it done eventually. But if we're talking about naturally magnetic metals, you only have three choices. You only have iron, nickel, and cobalt. So most other metals don't even apply unless you intentionally magnetize them.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the reason why they still also try to explain the scientific side of things because you needed some way to explain some of this stuff that sounded at least somewhat intelligible. Of course, the thing is that it's not like probably what our world today, what we know probably about science, right? It's probably a bit more than what they knew back in the 30s, right?
Oh,
Back,
for sure, right? Like at a certain point, after the bombs drop, right? Throughout like the 40s and 50s, you start seeing a bunch of heroes who their powers are specifically tied to radiation because we knew a lot more about radiation, but still not as much as we do now. And radiation seemed like this magical, mystical thing because we only really just discovered how to like measure it and all the different things that are affected by it. That it's like we're constantly just almost wowing ourselves, and people want to hop on it. Like, oh, look at this cool new thing that we barely know anything about. Let's write something about it. Let's include it in our fiction.
mm-hmm. And sometimes the science fiction can sound more fantastical than the actual science itself, right?
Oh yeah.
Even at the time, a lot of the stuff wasn't scientifically accurate.
Oh, and I point that out a lot. But you know, it's like, what are they going to do? These guys had no budget at all. That's why they're making comics, right? They're not doing other things. They don't have a radio station where they're doing radio plays or whatever. This is like the lowest budget medium that you could do, even at its time. It's like they're not going to hire a consultant who's going to tell them everything. They could find some stuff at the library, but they do also have to get their comic done this week. So it's like you have to choose how much you're going to give them, how much
Right.
slack.
Yeah. And of course, I don't know if since many of the readers were usually kids and maybe at the oldest young adults, I don't know if they were really thinking too. I don't think they were sitting there trying to pick apart the comic. Oh, this isn't correct. This isn't correct. I don't really think the fan base is really sitting there nitpicking the comic for accuracy. They just
Most of them don't now.
yeah. I mean, they just they just they just read it, and if it sounds cool, they like it, they'll continue buying it. If it doesn't sound cool, they won't buy it.
Yeah, like I can be pedantic because we're on a show where it can be fun to be pedantic if you have somebody on here who happens to know something. But like you have to understand the internet is not real life for the most part. The amount of people out there that are going to nitpick stories back then or now are a very, very small handful of a small percentage of the audience. Most people just read and enjoy. They don't understand. They don't want to understand more than what the story is telling them. That is just the experience most people want. My dad will often tell me when I'm watching a show, and I'm like, that wouldn't work that way. He's like, just shut up and watch it.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I think a big part of it, and this is one of the reasons why I even started doing this weekly look back in time to begin with. A lot of people, when we read comics like this, right? A lot of it is we want to venture into those worlds, and maybe there are some fantastic things about those worlds, but we want to get lost in it because the world we're living in may not be the greatest world that's going on, right? I mean, think about it. Back here in the 30s,
personally, I think we live in the ideal world. Whether that's optimistic or pessimistic to you, that's your own decision. But I think what makes our world ideal is that we have all these fictional stories in it. Like that's part of it. But I do like to imagine. This has helped me a lot with these stories. That physically, this is how things work in that world that the story takes place in, and it's better when you don't have crossovers because then every individual story can just have their own rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the beauty of having all these different comic book companies, right? Because it's like you're going into each. You notice how when I talk about the comic book companies and so that I refer to them as worlds, right?
Yeah.
You have the David McKay world. You have Eastern Color. You have DC. A lot of people talk about like Detective Comics universe and Marvel. DCU, MCU. They're all their own different worlds. I mean,
And in some cases, the publications themselves aren't even their own worlds. They're just a collection of even smaller worlds within them.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what DC became when they bought up a whole bunch of properties because it's like because DC did have obviously had its core, but then when they like for example when they bought Fawcett out, that's another world that they basically absorbed into their own. Basically, Fawcett is of course the company that originally gave us the original Captain Marvel, Ibis the Invincible. Spy Smasher, Bullet Man, all those, they also absorbed the quality comics universe, right? With the Freedom Fighters, the Blackhawks, Plastic Man, all that, so anyways, let's see. I think we have one more little quote from Fitzgerald here. Silver Age comics and radiation as a stand in for magic. There is a villain who makes working voodoo dolls out of radioactive clay. What's kind of funny too. You mentioned that shows though. That reminds me of another Super Friends episode. One
Yeah.
that of course featured the main core Super Friends and El Dorado, and they were dealing with the doll maker, who would basically what he did is he took some radioactive clay, made clay dolls out of the Super Friends, and then had them, and then took control of the Super Friends, had them go off and commit crimes for him.
Well, I think that's also part of what makes sci-fi a genre is that there is no magic in sci-fi. The science can operate like magic. It can be the explanation for magic. Even if like you have somebody who's claiming to do magic, there has to be some in-world explanation for that magic at the bottom of the ground at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's what makes it different than general fantasy is that even if the science doesn't make sense, there's some type of quote unquote scientific explanation for everything that happens.
Yeah. You mentioned all that. That reminds me of the Silver Age Flash villain Abracadabra,
Yeah.
because they talked about how he came from a time where, at least in the DC universe, he came from a time, I don't know if it was like the 30th century or something like that, where magic and science were indistinguishable from each other. Right? You
Yes.
know, you know what I'm talking about, right? Right, Metal?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But then,
So
that goes to that classic quote that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
yeah. It shows though said in Fantastic Four to be specific, and so Doctor Who is science fiction.
No. So Doctor Who is even more complicated. It is a fairy tale disguised as science fiction, right? It uses a lot of the imagery and the tropes of science fiction, but at the bottom of the barrel is the unexplainable.
Hmm. All right. So, anyways, let's get back to the story here. We had a good little discussion there. Let's get back to the story then. Hmm. I can't understand it myself. Hey Tom, bring in the rest of that mixture, will you? Holy mackerel! Yeah, yes, ouch, ouch. Hey, look out, stupid! Tom trips and hurries in as he hurries into the room. Which is why you don't run, right? Why don't run if you don't have to? And a weird chemical splashes on Bob's shoulder. Instantly, Bob goes up in a geyser of water. Wow, look at that! Look from the one panel to the next there.
Yeah.
Quick, Tom. Quick, Tom. Get the antidote. Ho- uh, Holy thunder, Harry! What have you done to me? Let's see. Tom throws a gallon of concentrated chemical on the pool, and Bob rises like a specter from the magic liquid.
Wait, if you had an antidote, why did you even have to wait for everybody to come over here? Like I know you said I have to figure out what chemical was in the jar. Shouldn't the other people in the lab be able to do all of this?
um, couldn't tell you that. maybe,
Get
maybe,
the
maybe,
antidote.
maybe they just did it that way to add pages.
I guess, yeah. The specific antidote for this exact situation. Go and grab it that you already know it exists.
Hmm. That's a neat trick, Harry. Suppose you try restoring your hand now? Duh! Right? right, right,
Yeah.
right, right there,
I don't know if any of these people should be working in a lab, to be honest.
duh! uh, hmm. Let's see. Might might inject some of that stuff into your bloodstream, Bob. If you're willing to make an experiment. Sure thing. Say, this makes a swell protective camouflage. Um, just what I need when I tear into this mysterious league that's trying to wreck the country. Are you snickering still?
Yeah, a little. Fitzchoso even says, "How would he already have an antidote for something that's never happened before?" That's what I'm saying. Like, apparently they were prepared for this exact situation to happen. I would have liked this better if instead of being like shocked and scared on their way over, like, "Oh my God, we gotta help him," they were more excited, like, "Oh my God, look what actually happened," because it seems like they were prepared for all contingencies.
Again, don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's not like we can raise Bill Everett from the dead and ask him, right?
Well, not with that attitude.
Well, or unless you really want to go down the demon's path and start trying to practice necromancy.
Do I care that much?
Are you ready to be cursed by the devil or something like
I probably already am. Let's go.
that? uh, all right. Anyways, back to the story here. Hmm. Look. I've got some full length tights here, part of a masquerade costume. Why don't you wear them with a pair of high boots? Um, might as well look in character. Good idea. Yeah,
Why do you have
kind
this
of
in a
funny. It's kind
lab?
of funny. It does seem kind of funny that they almost had some kind of premonition that this is going to happen, right?
Yeah, it's like, we're basically mad scientists here. Things happen. Yeah. Well, why don't we just get you a super suit ready just in case?
Oh boy. Hmm. Hmm. It's not so funny. Hmm. Oh wait. Okay.
There's a long panel. Is this the next one or the one underneath it?
Yeah. Um. Okay. You you can have my service automatic. You can have my service automatic and the aviator's helmet and goggles. They'll help the disguise. Robin Hood himself. You're a nut, Bobby. Let's see. And so Bob Blake becomes Hydro-Man, crusading against alien invaders. Hmm. It's not so funny, Joyce. This discovery is really revolutionary. Wait till you see what I do with it. From now on, you can call me Hydro-Man.
Actually, you know what? I think it is funny, Joyce. So far, you seem to be the only sane person in this room.
Uh,
And by aliens, I'm guessing they mean
I guess in
Asians.
that case, the narration actually should have came after the dialogue there. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Let's see what we got here. Then Meanwhile, in the basement office of an old tenement house on Pell Street, four men are in secret conference. Wong, you shall have you shall have charge of all the Chinatown section, and Su Li will. Hey now, yeller puss. Who's running this shebang? You or me? All right. Before we continue on, we have to do the usual PSA here.
Do we? Do we really?
I just do it just as a precaution, just so maybe we don't, but we might get some hassle for it if we don't. These terms are offensive. They were offensive then, and they're offensive now. Even though back then, go ahead.
I was like, oh yeah, they were intentionally using them because they were offensive. It's not like they weren't offensive back then.
Yeah, but they are considered they're unacceptable, and we do not condone their usage. But this is a product of the time, and that's all we're reflecting is that it's the product of the time. Anyway.
Except for me, I'm a bad person. This is the cover Mike.
And at the street entrance, the guard is suddenly yanked through a door by a powerful hand. Hey, what's the idea? Sorry, pal, but you would be very much in the way. Had a hunch this was the right place to come to now, and to find the rest of the gang. This must be the office. Opening the door. Okay, gents, lift them up. Holy smoke! Who are the devils? This bird. Drop that rod, mister. The fat one leaps to his feet, revolver in hand. What the crack? Oh no, you don't, fatty.
Pretty sure that's supposed to be a gunshot. Like it's going.
Suddenly, Hydro Man leaps, his geyser pounding over the fat gunman. What is this? What is it? Then it tightens around his head, drenching him. So he's basically trying to drown him there. He's trying to drown the gangster there, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. Like this is over for him type stuff. I mean, maybe because he's got control of the water afterwards, he could just like will the water out of his lungs so he doesn't die. But like this is pretty bad.
Well, you could argue that the writers back in this time were pretty dark in some ways. I mean, the writers apparently had no qualms about writing about murdering people, right?
Yeah.
So.
I also like that the writer is insistent on you just knowing, despite being able to see the image and judging for yourself, that this gangster is fat. He wants you to constantly be aware that he's fat. He calls him fatty, fat gunman, just over and over. It's very important that you know this.
Yeah. He sinks into a coma, slowly drowning. Let's get out of here. That thing ain't human. Hydro Man, leaving the fat one, sweeps around in front of the others, cutting off their escape. He reappears from the swirling torrent. Hold it. I'll let you go, all right, for I want you to take a warning to your leader. Tell him that Hydro Man is on his trail. Bah! Bah! The Great One is far too powerful for you or any of your miserable countrymen. Out of my way. Not so fast, chum. I'm an American, and so are my people. And Americans just won't be whipped. Tell that to your boss, imbecile. I'm leaving you now, but remember that Hydro Man never leaves anything unfinished. Watch the next issue, fellers, for an exciting adventure with Hydro Man. All right, so looks like we got done with that one. All right, so well, I guess before I even ask, we have a couple more. Looks like we have few more. Let's see if it shows. I had a few more comments here. Let's see.
Oh, we already commented that one.
All right. Are there any headphones that last a long time, more than 2 months?
I'm sure there are plenty. I mean, I've had my current. Well, I have a headset, but I've had my current one for maybe almost a year now. So they're fine. I mean, it also depends on how well you take care of them. Usually, I go to Sony. I think Sony in their mid-price range for the type you want usually has some long-lasting headphones. I would avoid the lower price range for most things, even earbuds, because the wires are just so thin they're bound to break on you.
Let's see. I mean, Batman hung a guy from his plane in his first appearance.
Batman used to kill people all the time.
Yeah.
The reason, even his
very
first
early-
recurring villain,
the
he
very
thought he
early
killed.
stories. The very
Yeah.
early stories he did. You know,
The reason they stopped him from doing that is because Batman was going to last longer than they originally thought, and they needed villains for him to fight. They couldn't just make up new people every single time.
well, also I think you also had obviously, let's say after 1954, there was another reason that he stopped killing people.
Yeah, because he still killed like henchmen and stuff during that earlier time, but then everyone kind of stopped killing people.
because of the Comics Code Authority.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see now. And then, who has a higher body count, Dick Tracy or Judge Dredd? I have no idea myself, but
I would. Oh, that's actually tough. I want to say Dredd only because I think due to him continuing longer, like I think he's had a longer run because they still once in a blue moon make Dredd comics. I don't remember the last time anybody told the Dick Tracy story. I think their average kill count, like body count, is probably about the same though. So it's really just whoever has more comics, more stories in general. Dick Tracy does have a lot of stories though before he went out. It might be him.
it was DC Code before a Comics Code.
Yeah, but the main reason Batman started reeling back was because they needed recurring villains. But he was still killing henchmen and stuff during that time. It was around the same time that everybody kind of had to PG it up that he kind of stopped killing altogether.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, now to, of course, overall impressions of the story. Metal.
I think it's kind of fun. It's goofy, like even compared to some of the other stuff we read. Like this one's really goofy, but I don't know. I may have to read more issues. That might be what they're intending, right? And it's just hard to read it off of one issue, whether that's the intention or not. Because it almost feels like, I wouldn't say a parody or satire, but that it's taking itself seriously while poking fun at other hero-esque sci-fi comics at the time. And that could be cool if that was what they were intending to do. Um, I just
Well,
talk about like sci-fi in general. It's really weird, like trying to use science to explain how he can become water and still have consciousness and control himself. It's one of those things where I would prefer if it was magic. He's like, how do you have consciousness of every droplet of water that you become? And how do you keep yourself separate from other water and pull yourself back together? But I mean, it was kind of fun.
yeah, but I think we've seen similar situations with any kind of transmorphic individual. Anybody who had some kind of like ability to change their, just at a molecular level, change
Oh yeah,
their
because you have
appearance.
like Plastic Man, who's one of the most broken characters in all of comics.
Yeah. Or taking a cartoon example, Molecular from Silverhawks.
Yeah.
He, and just for those who don't know who I'm talking about, he was basically a villain part of Monstars Mob. It was basically one big humanoid molecule that he put his hand together like this, and he could change into anything he wanted to. He was like the master of disguise, basically.
We have like the
Uh,
Wonder Twins, right? Where like one of them always takes the form of some type of liquid, and
yeah,
sometimes their face is on
Zan.
the liquid too.
Yeah, Zan. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's another example. Hmm.
Yeah, Fizz says Metamorpho is the Egyptian god Ra. He's like, I like those powers more when they have like a supernatural backing to it, because you're like, okay, there's some magic or higher power that is allowing you to actually control this stuff when you are no longer you.
Yeah. So, all right. So, and what did you think of the art here as well? Just curious.
Yeah, I think the art was actually pretty fine. It's, I mean, some of the color, it's hard to tell because of the scans. You could tell the age of them. There's even you can even see some staining on the pages, but I think it's held up pretty well. That whoever did the scan did some color correction, like leveling, to try to make it pop out. But I think the art holds up pretty well.
All right. So with that, and I think this is like for Eastern Color. This Hydro Man here might be like their ace superhero going forward. I believe. So we'll probably be reading. So we probably will be reading more of him over
Yeah.
time. So, I mean, they went as far as to even give him a sidekick, right? Like they did with a lot of heroes at this point in time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Regular fellers here. Flying Jamie.
Oh, she's a
Flying
cutie.
Jenny. Star Flash. So here's some Star Flashes here. Let's see. Donald Meek, noted for his henpecked husband roles, actually has the strongest grip of any actor. He makes burly 6-footers wince when he shakes hands. So I guess this guy was known, Donald Meek. I guess he was known for being meek. I guess, and but yet he had a handshake that would make you think twice about thinking that he's meek.
Oh yeah, well, one of the things about grip strength is that it's almost completely independent of your size, weight, or muscle mass, because it's joints and tendons, and it's something that you can continue to increase even into like seniority, like into like being an elder. Some of the people with the strongest grip strength on the planet are in their 70s. So it's like you could often shock people when like a 60-year-old guy comes up to you, gives you a handshake, and you're like, man, I work out, but that guy felt like he was going to crush my hand.
Epsom salt mixed with stale beer is used to frost windows in winter scenes. Boris Karloff. Screen Monster grows rare orchids in his leisure time.
Oh, I love Karloff. I didn't know
Or
he liked orchids though. That's pretty cool.
yeah, let's see. Let's see now. Hollywood slang or Hollywood slanguage. Federal job. A command from the front office. Lily. A satisfactory scene. Sidney Toller requires makeup only on the right side of his face for his Charlie Chan roles. The left side is pure Oriental. Wow, so
Hmm.
he's somebody who could like half of his face looks Oriental. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's just the way I guess that his genetics fell out. That is like, yeah, if I want to really fit into the role, I have to wear makeup on the other side.
Too bad. Dick Powell. Dick Powell was in the insurance business. His former associates are now all millionaires.
I found that earlier the slanguage was pretty funny when they said a lily because lilies are rare bloomed and pretty fragile creatures. So a good scene is implying that like, yeah, this barely ever happens the first try.
Yeah. Let's see. Only 4 out of 100 extras averaged as much as $20 weekly during the past year. So, Arthur Teacher. Filmdom's foremost gentleman's gentleman has been made honorary president of the Butlers Club. Wow. So a guy, I guess, plays a lot of butler characters, I guess has become synonymous with butlers at that time, anyways.
Yeah.
Director W.S. Van Dyke is an intrepid big game hunter, but he has a horror of moths. Tilly
Hmm.
the mule was judged champion mule of the world at the Kansas City American Royal Livestock Show. These are some interesting little factoids, from this time.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Now, I'm guessing that's how it's pronounced. So, Heine Brock has never suffered a single bruise in all his years of doing comedy falls on skates. I mean, falling down all the time. I guess Heine would be a very interesting name to have for oneself. Heine's another word for your backside,
A
right?
patoot. Yeah.
Let's see. Feminine stars have favorite perfumes sprayed around the sets before the filming of intimate scenes. I guess to a point that would make some amount of sense, right? What do you think?
Yeah.
Robert Lowry has kissed every actress under contract to 20th Century Fox at the time of this comic, of course, in 1940. In the last 2 years, making screen test.
Well, good for him.
Lucky guy.
Yeah.
The Purple Zombie by Tarpe Mills. No, Dr. Malinsky. We've already gone beyond the laws of nature. Hail, you fool! We'll make a fortune. When I worked on the invention with you, I had thought it was to prolong life, not to revive the dead. Why, he's a zombie. Precisely. Just what I want. Just what I want. Armies. Just what I want. Armies of them. and I intend to use your invention to create more. Now, there's another classic trope, right? You have two scientists working together. One has altruistic intentions. The other has not so altruistic intentions. Right?
Oh
Right?
yeah, every
Classic.
single time. It's
Classic.
like there's always one of them who's like born to be a villain.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, you won't. You'll what? Ha! Ha! You, Hale, will be my second zombie. Shoots him dead. Mm. Abruptly, the dull expression of the zombie changes. The invention is now mine to create a vast army of zombies. Ha! I, Malinsky, shall be the ruler of the living and the dead. Oh, this guy's a charmer, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, hey, if anyone you kill can become a zombie you can control, why not just be the ruler of the living dead? It makes things easier, right?
Yeah. Hey, what's the matter with you? Get back, or I'll shoot. Oh boy. Here we go with the leaps in logic again. Great Scott, his skin is like a hide. The bullets don't penetrate. No, don't. So I am a zombie without a conscience, I? But not without brain. You and your backers sought to gain power by violating the dead, but you reckoned without me. Interesting phrasing there. You now to see who your backers are. Ah, yes, the names and addresses of 3 men. I'll call on Von Helm first.
I think it's Von Heim.
Oh, Von Helm?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should have realized that. Otto von.
Fitzjozo asks, isn't this just a ripoff of Reanimator by Lovecraft? No. Though Reanimator is older than this in 1922. Um, the plot is different, and even some of what's going on is different. If anything, this is actually more of a ripoff of Frankenstein, you know, the much older story that even influenced Reanimator, especially because this creature kind of seems to be going on like a vengeance or justice trip.
To kind of go through so all superheroes from that time needed a sidekick because Robin, even Captain America had a kid sidekick. Yeah, Bucky Barnes. Golden Age comics specifically are just nothing but narration. Well, there's dialogue. I mean, we've seen there's dialogue. They're just.
Yeah. Honestly, I like the narration. I don't think not having narration make things read more naturally. I think it's how the story's set up. Though I do think that if you are going to do narration in this way, you should probably always lead it at the start of the panel, unless you have a panel like the one coming up where there's no dialogue in it whatsoever. Then you could put it at the bottom, but it should always be before the dialogue.
Even in the Silver Age, they toned it down and read more natural. Introduced to the trope of Dr. Blood and Dr. Tommy from Bolts and Bills. Isn't it okay? You already read that one. Let's see. A smart zombie. Oh my! Although the zombie tropes weren't set yet.
Yeah, you go further back into history, even going back to like fables and mythology. You never knew how intelligent a zombie or resurrected creature would be. Sometimes they'd be as intelligent as the thing that they were before they passed. Sometimes they come back with just like animal intelligence, right? And sometimes they're just like a completely mindless husk that is puppeted by whatever brought them back. Um, but one of the most famous zombies is the golem, the modern homunculus, Frankenstein's monster, who was very intelligent. He was far more intelligent than the person who even created him.
Vulcan blip, sorry. All right, so getting back to the story, of course.
Modern Prometheus.
Yeah. And we're of course we've made some good time. We're already at hour 20 here. So let's see. Otto von Heim, wealthy munitions maker, is impatiently waiting to hear from Malinsky. Odd that he doesn't answer the telephone. He was to let me know the minute the creature showed signs of life. Without warning, the zombie steel-like fingers grasped von Heim's neck in a death grip. And look at that face! Look at that face there.
If you're, I think somebody actually posed for that for him, which is why it's not very accurate. If you're choking somebody like that from behind, which I happen to have seen in my own life, somebody else doing this, your face actually kind of almost bloats out a little bit when you're getting choked, and so that just doesn't look quite right.
All right. Continuing on here. Let's see what we got here.
But at least they went through the effort of trying to post it out. I'll give them credit for that. Like, clearly, you look at that, you don't have to scroll back up, and somebody in the office, like, kind of was just like, "Hey, make a panicked face, like somebody's strangling you," and they posed for that. I guarantee you.
Kim Hale, the young inventor from whom Malinsky thought dead, regains consciousness, and although seriously injured or seriously wounded, staggers over to Malinsky. Great Scott! What happened? He's been strangled, and the zombie has escaped. At police headquarters. What's that? What's that? A zombie? Say, who's this? Meanwhile, a passing motorist is hailed. Give you a lift, bud? Hop in. Yow! A second later, the car streaks away with a zombie at the wheel, leaving the terrified car owner standing on the road. Well, I'll be. Police headquarters? Some guy just swiped my car, and I think he's a ghost or a Martian. He ain't human.
Well, ghost, he once was.
So zombie didn't even come to mind, apparently.
Well, okay, listen. Even if you knew what a zombie was, the way this guy is moving, he seems like a regular living thing. You didn't know he was previously dead, and that's probably why his skin is discolored, kind of purplish or whatever. Like, you're just assuming, like, this is a monster walking around. I don't know if zombie would be the first thing that would come to anybody's mind. I guess even back then, you know?
Calling all cars. Murder in stolen car. Headed uptown. License number is. With police sirens screaming throughout the city, a car stops in front of the Richmore Hotel. Okay, Richmore, like the Ritz Hotel, and then kind of it sounds like a combination of two famous hotels, like the Ritz Hotel and the Barrymore, I think. All right, maybe.
I don't know. That way, there is a Richmore Hotel that's pretty famous in the UK. I don't know if maybe they're referencing that.
Could be. Let's see. Stalking through the lobby, the zombie let's see enters an elevator, and in a hollow voice booms out, "18th floor." Two representatives of foreign nations await a call at the hotel from Malinsky. Hmm. May as well have another drink. Did you order more ice? Yeah. Yes. 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 That must be the bellhop at the door. Now, a second later, "You wanted zombies, eh?" Using a huge net, the police attempt to capture the zombie. "Got him at last." Let's see. Bullets failed to stop the zombie as he hurls. Oh, okay. I think I
Yeah, I
read
think
it a
you read
little
this
out.
out of order.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll try this again. A second later, "You wanted zombies?" At that moment, police burst into the room. "He's not human, aren't? We'll have to trap him in a net." Bullets fail to stop the zombie as he hurls the unconscious foreigners at the police. Using a huge net, the police attempt to capture the zombie. "Got him at last?" But have they? Continued in the next issue. All right. So the purple zombie. Overall impressions.
It feels
Well,
very much like a Frankenstein story. I don't know where it's going because I've never read The Purple Zombie before today.
well,
But
nobody had, or no, well, I guess from our perspective, nobody has as of yet because this is
yeah, I mean, but
our fifth.
obviously, from our perspective, somebody else in our time could have read every issue of The Purple Zombie. Um, but given how things are, he seems to be a monster that's very strong coded for maybe even justice, partially vengeance, but mostly justice, right? He wants to stop these people from making other zombies. Um, so I feel like the good doctor could probably talk this guy down and work with him, and it'll probably be kind of like a hero anti-hero guy in the future. Um, I
Well,
think it's a strong setup for a story.
based on your statement there, would you say that you might look forward to reading more of the story or hearing more about
I
the
do
story?
kind of want to know where it goes. You know, like, yeah, because like I said, this is a strong setup for a story. It's not a strong story as it is, especially because like they leave you in this little cliffhanger right at the climax. Find out in the next issue. So for like an introduction, like, hey, we want you to come back and read more. It's a really good start.
Hmm. All right, and I guess we have some more comments from the shows over here. Let's see what he has to say here. Night of the Living Dead killed zombie stories.
I don't inherently agree. I get what he's saying
Hmm.
because his follow up kind of has to do with that too, where he says this is a more interesting story than 90% of all zombie stories nowadays. Dawn of the Dead established one premise and ending you can use for zombie stories. There's actually like 3 or 4 different endings, even within the Dawn of the Dead style. Um, it's not that Dawn of the Dead ruined it, it's the media production machine that has to play it safe and has to write off of anything that's creative because Dawn of the Dead was very original artistic when it first came out. But then everyone's like, well, we're just going to do this over and over again because they need to guarantee they're going to make money.
And then Vizioso also said, "I actually want to know what hell are the scientists going to do about the zombie?"
Yeah, I think the blonde scientist can probably talk him down, right? He seems reasonable. He's going after like jerks mostly. Um, They could probably work together. I don't think I actually even the thing with like Frankenstein's monster, if Victor didn't leave the creature, actually gave him a name, treated him like a son, literally all of the events of the story would have been avoided. So I think the good guy could probably talk him down. I think that's possible.
All right, so let's see now.
I'm also going to use the restroom real quick, so I'll be back.
All right, so okay, this one looks interesting. Maybe we'll do this one. I think we'll do Stony Creek. Yeah, this one looks kind of colorful and interesting. So again, while we're waiting for, of course, Metal to get back. Again, a friendly reminder: if you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So, yeah, but we got some pretty interesting stuff going on right here, just with some of this stuff. Just past the hour and a half mark, so might be able to get through one, maybe two more features here before we start to wrap up.
I have returned.
All right, I was thinking we could get another one or two stories in before we start to wrap up here. So we're gonna
whatever feels right.
Yeah, okay. Well, because I was trying to get it to hit around 1:47 tonight. Just trying to we're at like just after an hour and a half here, so. All right, so Sergeant Stony Craig and the U.S. Marines by Frank Renfro and Don Dixon.
It's funny as I know a Don Dixon. It's definitely not the same one. They're generations apart, but yeah.
Right. With Klondike Devlin, the Marines with Klondike Devlin, the Marines wing their way from Alaska to San Diego. We're ready now, Craig. Yes, Blade. There's aircrafting to landing field. Meanwhile, in the office of the commanding general in San Diego. Excuse me a moment. Felt something coming on there. Sir, the general sent for me. Yes, I did, Captain. Come in. I have an important matter I want to discuss. The State Department is instituting an American mission in the Grand Duchy, primarily to assist from neutral soil our nationals trapped in the war zone. The Navy Department wants to assign a captain and 4 enlisted men. I fear I must designate my best officer. General, do you mean me? Yes, of course. Naturally, if you don't care to accept. But General, I do. Thank you, sir. You understand, Littenberg, although neutral, is encircled by belligerents. It is a delicate mission. Yes, sir. I have selected you because I believe you can keep your head. How about the men who are to accompany me? A non-com and 3 privates. You pick them out. By George, Stony Craig would be in Alaska. General, I am Captain Blade, Naval Intelligence. We have just returned from Alaska. Alaska? Did Craig return with you?
It's a very wordy comic so far.
Yeah, yes, Captain Cutter. Craig flew our plane down from Alaska. Then, General, I think the problem of a non-com is settled. Non-com, I believe, means non-commissioned, as a non-commissioned officer.
Yeah.
Captain Cutter, I'm glad to see you, sir. Uh, Craig, I've been ordered to Littenberg. Will you come with me? Captain, I'd be glad to. Do you know 3 privates that can fill the bill? How about the lads who were with me in Alaska? Good, get them equipped. Now, do you lunkheads savvy this is to be a mission of peace. That means no scrapping. Break out your blues. Wise, you remind me. Wise, you remind me of General Grant. He didn't shave either. I did shave. I did shave once today. Then stand closer to the mirror this time. Oh boy.
Shaved once today. Is he implying the type of guy who just grows his peach fuzz back like really fast? He has both a 5 o'clock shadow at both fives each day.
They look like good men to me. They are, sir, but I don't dare let him know. I think so. Goodbye, Captain. You will receive full instructions in Washington. Goodbye, sir. We're off to Washington, Fink. Washington, say, isn't that where the president lives? It is, hillbilly. Oh, I can already see what's gonna be going on here. Can't you? Can't you?
Oh God, I don't even know. The thing is, everything's so wordy. They've spent a couple pages just talking, and none of it even helped establish the characters' personalities or what's going on. I think
I
they
don't know.
wasted a lot of
I
page
think there
space.
was some person in that quick little exchange. I think we got a pretty good idea of these 3 privates, their personalities, and even in some of the dialogue before that. Hmm. There's a Navy field at Anacostia, Craig. We enlisted men. Uh, we enlisted men will be quartered at the 8th Street Barracks. You birds can have liberty, but stay out of trouble and be back at chow time. Shucks, Sergeant Craig. We'll be here to eat. I'm going out and see what makes this town tick. Oh, wait, oh. I'm going out and see what makes this town tick. Wise, you best string along with me and Hazard. Hmm. Eek! Somebody's climbing a tree. Calling Scout 51. Calling Scout 51. Go to 7th and Southeast. A woman reported prowler. That's us, Joe. Hmm. I I thought I heard something. Dame yelling. That's a man, officer. Right, lady. Come on, you. Me? What have I done? Just plain Tarzan. What what were you doing up in a tree? I was just I ain't talking.
Oh yeah,
Oh
that's gonna
boy.
make you look good.
Especially back then, because this was still the time before Miranda. Hmm. Sergeant Craig, Wise ain't coming off liberty. Do you reckon anything happened? Great guns, great guns. I'll bet my stripes he's fouled up somewheres. Yeah, I have a feeling these privates are a little bit more trouble than they're worth. What do you think?
Probably.
An excitable woman sees Slugger Wise in a tree, sends for the police. When Wise refuses to explain, the police set out for the police station. That's what they all say. I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything. Sure, I was up in the tree. I just wanted exercise. Hmm. I'm more inclined to think something has happened to. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong person there. I'm more inclined to think something has happened to Wise. Sergeant Craig, the officer of the day wants you. Craig, Private Wise is in the hands of civil authorities. You better go down to number 5 and get things squared right away. So that's where he is. Attempted housebreaking. I just can't connect Wise with anything like that. I reckon they must be wrong. Sorry, Sergeant. He can't be turned over to you until we find out what charges that woman is going to prefer. May I talk with him? Wise, if you had good reason to go aloft in that tree, you'd better spill it. I ain't got nothing to say. Oh, I'm so humiliated. A neighbor saw the whole thing. Do you know why he was in that tree? Lady, please don't tell. I will too. A little kitten climbed up in that tree and couldn't get down. This boy rescued it. Why didn't you say so? Heck. Okay.
Yeah, he's
Oh.
just embarrassed from caring about a little kitten.
Look, he's got what looks like I don't know what they call him there, but when they kind of like have almost a sound effects there.
Yeah, he's got like a glow or an aura to him that they're trying to like try to get across that he's like blushing, that he's nervous. They even kind of darkened the tone of his skin to give it like a blush.
Yeah. Well, I need to go off camera for a quick
Mhm.
moment to make some lighting adjustments here. So I'll be right back.
He's trying to pretend he's a tough guy. But the tough guy still likes cute little animals. Too bad. Too bad.
Hence the name Slugger Wise, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. I thought for a moment that maybe it shows had more comments there, but it doesn't look like it. All right.
At least I know this guy's personality.
Wise, you should have gone to the Smithsonian with us. We saw a cat with two. Ah, shut up. I wonder what two what.
Maybe two large teeth. Maybe it was a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
They did
Well,
go to the
usually when
Smithsonian.
they cut you off, when they cut off a line like that, it usually has something to do with something that may not be so appropriate to say. So that looks like that's the end of that story.
Yeah.
Overall impressions, Metal.
Way too wordy. Took too long to get anywhere
Hmm.
for such a short comic too. Like it wasn't very long, but it felt like we were in it a lot longer than we actually were.
Hmm. All right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up there with the story. So we got through three features and a featurette. Um,
Mm-hmm.
of course, we got through. Let's see. We got through Sergeant Stony Craig. Um, we got through Hydro Man, and then let's see if and the Purple Zombie, and then of course the featurette was Star Flashes. So okay, so with that, so we read three features tonight. We read four selections altogether. So first question, of course, of the three features that we read tonight, which one would you say was the one you liked the most, and your reasoning for that choice?
Honestly, the creature feature, the purple zombie, I think it was the strongest written one out of all these, because pretty much all of them are like starter stories. Like they're trying to get us rolling into something for a next whatever part of the story issue that's
Which of course
coming.
would be obvious because this is the first issue, right?
Yeah. And I mean, they could have picked something up from somewhere else, but no, all of these are starters to go with this first issue. And as a starter, I think the creature feature was the best one, the
The
purple
purple
zombie.
zombie, yeah.
Yeah, just because like I think it's the best setup for what could possibly happen next.
Well, the Shozo apparently agrees with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now that we discussed that, of the two remaining stories, which one did you like the least and why?
Old Craig
That one was
for
just
the
too wordy for you, huh?
Yeah, like it's just too slow to start. I think, right? I don't think it uses the space that it has very well, because I know you said we got a little bit of personality from the other guys, but really the whole thing was more of an introduction of one of the privates, right? Where we really got to see what kind of person that private is, which kind of just like leaves the others to still be introduced like next time or whatever. So it feels like it's going to be a very slow rolling.
Over a series of issues.
Yeah, it's going to be like a really slow rolling, really wordy comic. And I feel like this is just going to be what the rest of it's going to be for a while.
Yeah, but I think with the Stony Craig story, I think what the dynamic of the story is going to probably be based on what I've seen thus far here. A lot of it's going to be driven around the interaction between Sergeant Craig and his three privates there.
Yeah, it's going to
No.
be NCIS generations before NCIS happened.
Yeah. I mean, something tells me that all because let's see, we got Slugger Wise, who we were introduced to in this story, um, was kind of the tough guy who didn't want anybody to know that he was going to save that he liked to save kittens from trees. Uh, and I don't know if he's the same one but one of the I don't know if it's him or maybe one of the other privates who seems to be a hillbilly because somebody commented you hillbilly, but I don't know if they were being the wise when they called him a hillbilly or they were calling the other guy a hillbilly. But so we might have some very interesting personalities, you know, interacting with each other there. Um,
Yeah,
what would you say about my assessment there?
it's probably true. Like I said, it's the obviously it's very early on. There aren't really shows like this or even many other comics like this, but it's a pattern that we end up seeing later on a lot like the modern show NCIS is that same one where it's mostly about whoever the leader and his subordinates and their interactions with him and each other. You go back far enough, it's kind of like a classic way that people tell stories together, and there's definitely an audience for it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't interest me that much.
The interactions there among these very disparate characters, really,
It's also like
really will probably
Hogan's Heroes.
drive the story. What was that?
There's also like Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can even throw in MASH in there as well.
I could, yeah. And MASH of all those shows, I actually enjoy.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that was the end of that. So, what we'll do now, of course, with today being Sunday, April the 20th, 2025. Why don't we go ahead and take a look back at this date? Niche history. Actually, from what I understand too, if I remember correctly, you said that the Purple Zombie is probably one that you would want to read more of, right?
It's possible. Yeah, like I said, it's a good startup. I think I'd rather just find a collection of just that.
1935 and 2000. All right. So let's take a little trip down. Let's see. I'm looking for open-ended puzzle games in the mood for strategy. Okay.
Open-ended puzzle games. I don't know, like Myst? I don't know. If I think of one, I'll tell you, man.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so let's take a look back. So first off, I'm going to head back 90 years ago yesterday. As on this date, 90 years ago yesterday, back in 1935, Fleischer Studios' Swat the Fly, a cartoon starring Betty Boop and Pudgy the Pup, premiered in movie theaters on this date back in 1935. See, while Betty tries to bake a cake, an annoying fly tries to pester Betty and Pudgy the Pup. Betty, after failed attempts at regularly swatting a fly, desperately begins tossing gobs of extra dough at the little fly, but the fly keeps escaping. In the end, Betty catches the fly and a lump of dough flat on Pudgy's nose. Okay. But the entire house is in shambles. Then the fly manages to free itself once more. Of course, this came after the Hays Code was implemented. A lot of these, by this point they had they transferred Betty from being kind of a flapper to more of a sweet domestic. And a lot. I don't know if you saw this one or seen any of the Betty Boop, Pudgy the Pup, cartoons, but they are kind of on a cute level there. They are pretty cute.
I've seen them. My favorite Betty is Flapper Betty. It's just after she stopped being a poodle, which she was actually an anthropomorphic poodle originally, and before this, like that era was my favorite era of Betty Boop.
Yeah. Basically, between the time they made her fully human and this point.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, moving on to the next piece of niche history, of course. Let's see. And Fitzlucho said, just want a goal with multiple ways to accomplish it.
Yeah, there's a lot of those out there. If I think of any off the top of my head, I'll let you know. I know that's pretty much how I played Breath of the Wild.
Wait, Betty Boop was yes at the her first few appearances. So Betty Boop originally started out as a supporting character to a character named Bimbo.
Yep.
Okay, she was a supporting character of Bimbo, back in like when she made her debut. I believe it was in 1930 or 31. But
Yeah, it
what
was
ended up happening?
a cult feature, right? Where Bimbo's going through like what seems to be a haunted house with a bunch of cultists and everything. And when he actually gets to the end and he like agrees to join their like occult practice, the person disrobes and it's Betty Boop underneath.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, and at first, of course, Betty was Bimbo's, romantic interest, as many
Yeah,
cartoon
so she
characters.
had to be a dog as well.
Yeah. You know, um, but what ended up happening is Betty Boop as a character eventually gained more popularity than Bimbo, and eventually to the point where she essentially took over his feature.
Oh yeah, she was like it wasn't even close in how much she overtook him. She got to the point that people don't even remember that Bimbo exists.
Well, hence why we're talking about it right now, right? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you and I knew this because and I knew this because I've been watching these
Of course,
classic
I know
cartoons.
you know it.
Yeah, so I mean, um, but yeah, Betty Boop at the very beginning when she was first created, um, she
It's why
she was
her actual head is shaped the way it is because it was supposed to be a dog-like head. She used to have like droopy poodle ears on the side, and they kind of just cleaned up all the dog features, but they kept her head the same shape.
mm-hmm, yep, yep. Of course, Coco the Clown was another part of that trio, and eventually, once Betty became more popular, Bimbo and Coco were eventually phased out, and then you had Betty did have like a romantic interest named Freddie for a while there, and then eventually Pudgy the Pup and Grampy were introduced, and by the time where I'm at now, I'm like August the 36th with my cartoon watching. By that point, Pudgy and Grampy were basically her two main supporting characters.
Yeah,
You know, and of
and
course,
Fizz's
oh, go ahead.
I was saying Fizz's Bimbo is probably public domain. Maybe parts of it. His first appearance was 1930 in Hot Dog. But
Mm-hmm.
his last appearance was actually in '89 in the Betty Boop movie mystery. So there might be aspects of him that you can use, but obviously you can't use the totality of him.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Of course, back in the 30s, the late great May Quetzal was the one who provided the voice of Betty, along with Olive Oil and later little Audrey. So give you a good idea of that.
Boop boop be doop.
Yeah. Then both. Oh, that's what you just read. All right. So with that, let's get ready to move on to the next piece of niche history here. As yeah. So now we move ahead to the year 2000, 25 years ago yesterday. 25 years ago yesterday. Let's see. Zebeck's Love Hina premiered on Japanese television on this date back in 2000. So on yesterday's date, back in the year 2000, Love Hina would premiere on Japanese television, most notably on TV Tokyo.
I
Metal,
like
have you ever
Lovina.
seen Love Hina?
Yeah, yeah, I like it. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a kind of an interesting one. Again, another one of those harem animes where you got the one male character and you had basically like these five female characters who are all living. They're all living together, and they all had some level. Well, with the exception of the main character who in Naru Sagawa there, you know, but yeah, so. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it is more focused on the slice of life, though. I think it's my opinion a bit more tame than most of the what actually we'll call it like a courtship. anime than anything. It technically does fall in like the bigger harem category, but it's not as explicit on the harem end as some other ones.
Right. Well. Also, if you really think about it too, as with many of these type of and it's slice of life, harem slash romantic animes like this, you basically get anywhere from 3 to 5 different girls, usually vying for a guy, and they're all very different in personality and in like character and all that.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I tend to use the word like courtship series instead. Because like when we get to like the heavy harem stuff, you've got things like Tenchi Muyo, which a lot of people call like the first true harem, where by the end of the story, they are all his harem.
Yeah. Well, and then if I now I've watched I think all of the Tenchi Muyo series. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see if I remember this correctly. But wasn't it eventually discovered that like um, Tenchi, Ayako, and Sasami weren't they all actually related?
Yeah.
Which, of course, since it is kind of a romantic harem aspect.
Well, I mean, it's not actually that weird though when you think about the setup for that series, because like the whole beginning is that there is this like galactic empire that's got like a royal family, and they need to marry off different ends of the royal family. So she gets sent down to find a guy who's basically her cousin to marry, but he's an old man now and he's the grandfather of Tenchi. So that's kind of like the actual setup of the entire series. And then you start finding out that there's a lot more other relatives and other people that get involved in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that one, Tenchi Muyo was a fun one.
Oh yeah.
Was a fun one to watch. I mean, I believe it was probably one of the more popular series on to back when Toonami was an afternoon block. I
Yeah, and
think
you question like how that show it was kind of censored a little bit for American audiences, but how that show
right.
even made it on an afternoon block in the first place.
Yeah. Even though it was still late afternoon, but still
Yeah.
nonetheless.
Oh yeah, I used to watch it like as I would get home from school and be on the block of things I'd watch.
Hmm.
But it's where I would put like the furthest end of acceptable raunchy for a kid.
Hmm. Yeah. And even Sasami got her own. I think she got her own anime spinoff from that as well.
Yeah, I think
Years
so.
later. Um, Anyways, now getting ready to move on to the next piece of niche history, of course. Now we're moving on to today, of course. We're moving on to the year 2005. And on this date in the year 2005, which was, of course, 20 years ago today, the 60th issue of 100 Bullets from DC Vertigo's line went on sale on this date back in the year 2005. Sold for $2.50. It's 40 pages. It was part one of the Staring at the Sun story, written by Brian Azzarello, with art by Eduardo Ariso. Clem Robbins, I guess Robbins, did the lettering, and then Patricia Mulville did the coloring. On this date, 20 years ago today, the 60th issue of 100 Bullets from DC Vertigo's line went on sale on newsstands. And finally, we head now to 10 years ago in 2015. On this date in the year 2015, on the basically the go home Raw before I believe it was Elimination Chamber this year. WWE held its Monday Night Raw event in the Times Union Center in Albany, New York. The show saw in the main event Seth Rollins with J&J Security defeat Dolph Ziggler. You also, and I guess in a match to see who would retain the rights to the quote-unquote the Miz brand, The Miz defeated Damien Mizdow to retain those rights in 2 minutes 50 seconds. In a match for the WWE United States Championship, John Cena retained over Kane. Let's see, anything. In a number one contendership match for the WWE Tag Team Championship, the New Day of Big E and Kofi Kingston, with Xavier Woods in their corner, defeated Lucha Dragons of Sin Cara and Kalisto via countout to become the number one. And then the show opened up to a no contest between Dean Ambrose and Luke Harper. So, all right.
You know, what's funny is I don't know much about wrestling at all, but apparently whatever this short little sequence was, I happen to know who every single person you named was this time around.
Well, let's see. Yeah, well, most of them are still with the WWE. Dean Ambrose is now, of course, goes by the name Jon Moxley in AEW. He's the current AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Luke Harper is the late, great John Huber, a.k.a. Brody Lee, who went over to AEW. John Cena, of course, you should know him because you probably been hearing a lot about him in the last few years, but not just from his wrestling career, but from his acting career, too. In fact, he's at WrestleMania tonight challenging Cody Rhodes for the undisputed title. Yeah. Seth Rollins was on last night's WrestleMania. So yeah. So with that, I do thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. So, of course, Metal, if you can stick around for a couple minutes afterwards for just some post-show stuff, that'd be appreciated. But before we do leave, of course, Metal, I would like to, of course, give you a chance to do any promoting you might want to do for anything you're doing this upcoming week or any projects you're doing. You know the shtick, right?
Yep. I already started. Hey, like always, I'm the Metal. I am the host of the Vomitorium with my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. You can go follow us over there. Mondays, we do a show called Super Serial Showtime, where we talk about movies, shows, anime, manga, comics, whatever in that regard that we want to. On Thursdays, we talk about games over in Game Central Junction. About, 9 p.m. CDT, both nights, if you can convert that to your own time. And I also run a publication called X Dynamis Chaos, which has a bunch of different stories that I write, both in comic and like web novel form. And currently we are working on a premium story called The Dreamscape Dilemma that you can follow. It will be probably $2 digital, I think. I would do it $1 when it comes out, but inflation, we probably are going to end up having to do it $2. But if you follow along with our Patreon, subscribing at $5 a month on the Dreamers tier, you can see everything as it's getting made, all the pages that they're done, background, work in progress stuff, anything extra we put in there, and you'll get the PDF at no extra charge as long as you back during the time that chapter was being made.
All right. And then, of course, Big Joe's saying bye-bye, everybody. Well, with that, I do thank everybody for being here. Metal, I thank you for being here. And as I asked if you could stick around for just a couple minutes afterwards for post-show, that'd be appreciated. So with that, we'll be back here tomorrow night with more niche news. And, of course, next Sunday, I'll be joined by Apex Comics again, as we'll be going over comics that went on sale in May of 1940 from Fawcett Comics. So there's a good chance maybe we might hit Captain Marvel story. Maybe.
Oh, spicy.
The original Captain Marvel.
Yes, I know.
But with that,
modernly known as Shazam.
Right. But with that, I do thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.
Happy Easter.